Rain pelted the rusted roof of the armored truck as it rolled through the shattered remains of a once bustling city. The skyline stood like broken teeth against the gray sky, every building scarred by time, war, and the undead. Inside the truck, 5 figures sat tense, silent. Their destination was the dead zone, once forbidden, now their last resort. Jonas kept his hands tight on the wheel, his eyes scanning the cracked road ahead. The others, Lena, Theo, Marisol, and Bishop, checked their weapons, their faces a mixture of dread and determination. They weren't soldiers. They weren't heroes. They were survivors. And they had one mission: disappear. Safe Haven, the last walled community on the East Coast, had fallen. Not to the undead, but to something worse, men who called themselves the Ascendancy. The self-proclaimed saviors had stormed the gates with drones, fire, and false promises. Those who refused to kneel were executed. The rest were enslaved under the guise of salvation. Jonas had led the escape through sewer tunnels, carrying only what they could grab. Weeks of hiding in the woods followed until one name kept coming up on old radio broadcasts: Outpost Erebus. A classified facility buried deep in the dead zone. No one knew if it still existed. But rumor said Erebus had been working on something that could reverse the spread, something more powerful than any cure. "We're close," Jonas muttered, slowing the truck near a skeletal bridge, half-collapsed and covered in vines. Below it, an open stretch of road vanished into fog. "You sure this is the place?" Lena asked, tightening the strap on her rifle. "Coordinates match. 10 clicks in, and we should hit grid marker E77. That's where the old maps place Erebus." Theo wiped fog from the window, squinting. "Even if it's still standing, what are the chances it's not crawling with deadheads?" "Better than letting the Ascendancy find us," Bishop grunted from the back. The truck creaked forward, tires crunching over debris. Every shadow looked like movement. Every gust of wind sounded like a whisper. The deeper they pushed into the dead zone, the more unnatural the silence became. There were no birds. No insects. Just the hum of the engine and their shallow breathing. Marisol, the youngest, broke the silence. "Do you think it's true? That Erebus had some kind of prototype?" Jonas didn't answer right away. He kept his eyes on the narrowing path. "I think they were desperate enough to try anything," he finally said. "And desperation leads to discovery, or disaster." 3 kilometers in, the truck suddenly screeched to a halt. A shape lay in the road ahead, motionless, human-sized. Jonas killed the engine. "Stay inside," he whispered, stepping out with his flashlight raised. The others followed, forming a cautious perimeter. As the beam of light touched the shape, they all stiffened. It was a man. Or what was left of one. His eyes were wide open, glassy with death, but his body showed no signs of rot or bite marks. Instead, his chest had been cut open surgically, ribs cracked and spread. "What the hell is this?" Lena whispered. Bishop crouched beside the corpse. "Whoever did this wasn't infected. This was an autopsy." "But by who?" Theo asked. As if in answer, a distant mechanical clang echoed from the forest ahead. They spun toward the sound, weapons raised. "Something's out there," Marisol breathed. They didn't wait. Jonas signaled them back into the truck. Whatever had killed that man wasn't far, and they weren't ready for a fight, not yet. Back in motion, the truck crawled forward as the trees thickened. Vines clung to metal road signs, most unreadable. After another mile, a chain-link fence came into view, bent, overgrown, and half buried in the soil. Beyond it stood a structure. Concrete. Reinforced. Mostly intact. "Erebus," Jonas whispered. The team disembarked, weapons drawn. The air felt colder here, the silence heavier. A keypad blinked red near a sealed door. Theo stepped forward, his fingers flying across the panel. A faint beep, then green. Old security protocols, he said. Someone wanted this place hidden, but not forgotten. The door groaned open. Darkness greeted them inside, stale and metallic. They entered slowly, lights dancing across abandoned desks, shattered glass, and empty hallways. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the overhead speakers, distorted and garbled, but unmistakably human. Welcome back, access recognized. Initiating Protocol 6. They froze. Jonas stepped forward, heart pounding. Someone's still here, he muttered. Or something is. A faint hum began to rise from deep below their feet. Somewhere in the lower levels, something had awakened. Whatever secrets Erebus had buried weren't going to stay buried for long. And neither were they. The steel door groaned as it shut behind them, sealing the group inside the belly of Outpost Erebus. Overhead, the flickering emergency lights cast long shadows across the concrete corridors. The faint mechanical hum that had started moments ago now pulsed like a heartbeat beneath their feet, steady and deliberate. Who triggered that protocol? Lena asked, her voice sharp. Theo checked the nearest console, blowing off years of dust. Not me. The panel recognized our entry. Maybe our BIOS matched old personnel files. Or maybe someone down here's still alive. Marisol shivered, gripping her sidearm. Or watching us. Jonas led the group forward, flashlight cutting a tunnel of light down the hallway. The air was dry, but heavy with the scent of metal and decay. Everything felt untouched, yet somehow alert, like the building had been sleeping and was now waking up. Look at this, Bishop said, stopping beside a shattered observation window. Beyond it, a vast chamber opened, rows of strange pods lined the walls, some cracked open, others intact. Wires dangled like vines from the ceiling. Inside the pods were humanoid figures, frozen in place. Cryostasis units, Theo whispered. This wasn't just a lab. It was a containment site. For what? Lena asked. People? Test subjects? A nearby panel blinked green. Jonas stepped forward and tapped it. A holographic log flickered to life above the console. The voice that came through was calm, female, and automated. Erebus Final Phase Log, September 14, 2036. Trial Series 3 of the Neuron Reclamation Initiative has begun. Test subjects retain memory and baseline intelligence post-conversion. Aggression levels, variable. Containment critical. Marisol stepped back. They were experimenting on infected. They were trying to reverse it, Theo said, eyes wide. Bring the mind back after infection. Reclaim the human inside the monster. No wonder the place was sealed, Jonas muttered. You mess with something like that, you don't leave the front door unlocked. As if on cue, a heavy thump echoed from somewhere deep in the complex. Everyone froze. Another thump, closer this time, deliberate, like footsteps, but heavier than any human. We're not alone, Bishop said, raising his rifle. They pressed forward, deeper into the structure, descending a narrow staircase to the lower levels. The walls here were darker, lined with pipes that vibrated slightly with the building's renewed power. The temperature dropped sharply. They entered a medical lab, or what remained of it. Tables overturned, shattered glass on the floor, and blood stains, some old, others fresher than they liked. Theo found a control panel and plugged in his data pad. The screen filled with lines of corrupted code and one stable file. Video log, Reclamation Test 27B. He hit play. The footage showed a restrained subject, human, at first glance. Male, mid-30s, eyes bloodshot, body trembling. A voice spoke off camera. Begin serum injection. Neural stimulant administered in 5, 4, 3. The man's body arched violently. His skin paled, veins bulging black. His mouth opened in a silent scream. Then, stillness. His eyes, once blank and feral, focused sharply on the camera. "Where am I?" he asked. The screen went black. They stood in stunned silence. "They did it," Marisol whispered. "They brought one back." "Temporarily," Jonas said. "The video ends there for a reason." Theo accessed the connected logs. 17 successful reversals. All collapsed within 72 hours. Brain activity overloaded, or mutated again. But, there's mention of a final version. A stable subject. Codename, Lazarus. Jonas's jaw tightened. "Where is it?" Before Theo could answer, the room plunged into darkness. Power cut. Then came the sound. A low growl. Not from one creature, but several. Flashlights flicked back on just in time to reveal movement at the end of the hallway, shadows twisting, jerking unnaturally. "Move!" Jonas shouted. They ran. Down corridors, past abandoned bunk rooms and sealed chambers. The growls grew louder. Whatever was chasing them wasn't dumb, it was tracking them with purpose. Marisol stumbled, nearly falling. Bishop yanked her back up without missing a step. They burst into a control center, slamming the reinforced door behind them. Jonas locked it just as something slammed against the other side. Claws scraped metal. "Not ferals," Lena breathed. "They're smarter. Faster. Then they're the test subjects," Theo said grimly. "What's left of them?" Jonas scanned the control room. "This is a command node. We need maps, schematics, anything on Lazarus." Theo found a terminal still active, lights blinking. "Got something. One storage chamber still shows life signs. Deep sector. 6 levels below us." "Then that's where we go," Jonas said. "We find Lazarus, and we find out if it's a cure, or a curse." Outside, the banging stopped. Too quiet. Then a voice, distorted and wrong, filtered through the speaker panel. We remember what they did." The others looked at Jonas. "We just became part of the experiment." Jonas wiped the sweat from his forehead as Theo downloaded the map layout onto his datapad. The screen glowed with flickering lines, partially corrupted, but just legible enough. A path led from their current floor to something labeled Deep Storage, Sector 9, Project Lazarus. "That's our target," Jonas said. "Whatever Lazarus is, it's alive." "Alive might not mean friendly," Bishop muttered, eyeing the door. "I'm open to suggestions," Jonas replied. "But staying here isn't one of them." Theo looked up from the screen. 6 levels down. Elevators offline. "We take the maintenance shafts." A fresh pounding echoed from the hallway, closer this time, measured, stalking, patient. "They're not rushing us," Lena said, voice low. "They're waiting. Hurting." "Then let's not give them time to close the trap," Jonas growled. "Move." They crossed the room and pried open a rusted access panel. Inside was a narrow ladder leading down into darkness. One by one, they descended, the steel cold under their palms, every sound amplified by the enclosed shaft. By the 3rd level, the stench hit them. A mixture of rot, metal, and something chemical, unnatural. A faint green glow pulsed from a broken emergency strip light embedded in the wall. The corridor they emerged into was different. The walls weren't concrete, they were lined with metal plating, insulated wires, and surveillance nodes, many still blinking red. This was a containment zone, Theo whispered. High-risk storage. They crept forward. All around them were sealed doors marked with identifiers: Test Chamber 4A, Genetic Archive, Isolation Vault. And then, one door stood apart, larger, more fortified, its keypad glowing a soft blue. Project Lazarus. Theo stepped up, typing quickly. Biometric lock, he said. But, the system still has admin override codes. I might be able to. A sharp metallic clang cut him off. From around the corner, a figure stumbled into view. Marisol raised her weapon. Wait, he's not one of them. The man staggered closer, clutching his side. Blood soaked his lab coat. I saw your entry, he gasped. You activated the system. Thank God. I thought I was the only one left. Lena stepped forward, cautious. Who are you? Dr. Kellis. Lead neurologist, Erebus. I've been locked down here since the outbreak, managing Lazarus. Jonas narrowed his eyes. The project. It's alive? Yes. Contained. But just barely. You don't understand, the others, the failed subjects, they've adapted. Some have regained fragments of memory. But their minds are twisted. Broken. Theo asked, what about Lazarus? Stable or not? Kellis nodded slowly. Stable. The only subject to retain full human cognition post-conversion. It remembers everything. Even its name. Subject 9. Jonas stepped closer. We need to see it. You don't understand, Kellis warned. Lazarus isn't just a breakthrough. It's a key. Its blood might hold what's left of a cure. But it's not compliant. You're saying it's hostile? Bishop asked. No. But it's angry. It knows what we did. What we tried to do. It's been speaking, asking questions. Waiting. Marisol glanced at the sealed door. Waiting for what? Before Kellis could answer, the lights flickered, and died. Another thud echoed behind them, louder this time. Theo cursed. They're tracking the power trail. They're coming. Open the door, Jonas ordered. Now. Kellis limped forward and slammed his palm against the reader. The keypad buzzed, then turned green. The door hissed open. A rush of chilled air swept out. Inside was a chamber lit by a soft white glow. At its center stood a figure, tall, male, draped in loose sterile garments, head shaved, eyes glowing faintly amber. He stood in a transparent containment pod, hands relaxed at his sides, gaze fixed straight ahead. Lazarus. The moment they stepped in, his eyes shifted. Met theirs. You're not Erebus, the voice said, calm, unervingly clear. You're, from outside. Jonas stepped forward. We're survivors. We didn't come to harm you. Yet here you are, Lazarus replied. In the house where they made monsters. Theo approached the console. He's conscious, talking. Full neural activity. This is incredible. I am not a miracle, Lazarus said. I am a memory that refused to die. Kellis cleared his throat. We believe your blood contains the proteins that halted the infection. It's why you retained your mind. You want to use me, Lazarus replied. Like they did. Jonas spoke firmly. No. We want to fix what they broke. There's nothing left out there but rot and war. But if you help us, if there's a cure in you, we can fight back. Lazarus stepped forward in the chamber, his expression unreadable. Then earn my trust, he said. Free me. Bishop shook his head. We don't know what he'll do. Another pounding crash outside the lab reminded them they were out of time. Jonas turned to the group. He's our only shot. If he turns, we put him down. But we need him now. Theo hesitated, then tapped the release. Gas hissed. The door opened. Lazarus stepped out. He looked at each of them, then at the corridor behind them. "You brought them with you," he said. Then, in one motion, he grabbed a steel rod from the table and faced the door. "They're coming." And he was ready to fight them. The corridor beyond the lab exploded in sound, snarling, pounding, metal bending under inhuman strength. The door shuddered under a heavy impact. Then another. Claws screeched against the steel, echoing through the chamber like a death rattle. "They've found us," Lena said, leveling her rifle. Lazarus stood unmoved, the steel rod still in his grip. "You call them infected. They were once people. Now, they are something else. Minds half recovered, trapped in pain and fury. We called them the Broken Ones." "Well, the Broken Ones are about to break in," Bishop growled. Jonas moved to the reinforced side console. "Can we seal the hallway remotely?" Theo was already there, fingers flying across the cracked display. "I'm overriding the lockout protocols. Give me 10 seconds. The banging intensified. Something growled, low, intelligent. Marisol's eyes widened. "They're talking to each other." Lazarus nodded. "They remember enough to hunt as a pack." The final lock on the outer door screeched. "Time's up," Bishop shouted. Theo slammed the execute button. With a sudden grind of metal, the hallway bulkhead dropped behind the outer lab door, sealing the passage. Silence. Then, bang. Something struck the sealed door. A pause. Another bang. But this time, softer. "Won't hold them forever," Lena muttered. "We won't be here that long," Jonas said. "Theo, do we have access to a secure exit route?" Theo nodded. "There's an emergency lift at the far end of this level. It bypasses the upper sections and leads straight to the external launch silo." "Launch silo?" Marisol asked. Kellis answered grimly. "Originally designed for biohazard disposal. If the project failed, the idea was to eject and destroy the infected material. No retrieval. Total annihilation. Which means it leads outside," Jonas said. "It's our best shot." Lazarus turned to Kellis. "Do you still have the serums?" Kellis nodded. 2 canisters. "Your blood samples, stabilized and preserved in cryostorage." "Then we take them," Lazarus said. "If what's left of the world has any hope, it's in those." They moved quickly, Kellis leading them through a locked chamber. Inside, 2 small metal cases lay inside a powered crate. He opened them. Inside, vials of pale, glowing liquid. Marisol took one carefully. "This is it?" "That," Kellis said, "is either the cure, or humanity's last failed gamble." Suddenly, the ceiling above them groaned. A section of it burst inward. Something dropped into the room. It landed hard, humanoid, but twisted. Its skin was pale and leathery, its eyes glowing faintly red. Bones jutted at odd angles, as if its body had grown wrong. And yet, it stood upright. Watching. Then it spoke. "You're not supposed to be here." Everyone froze. Theo whispered, "They're evolving." The creature tilted its head. "We remember everything. The pain. The tests. The cold." Lazarus stepped forward, gaze steady. "Then you know we were victims." "We are reminders," it hissed. "Of what was done. We are the warning." With a roar, it lunged. Jonas fired first, but the thing was fast. Too fast. It crashed into a table, scattering equipment. Bishop tackled it from the side, slamming it against the wall. The creature twisted unnaturally, claws slashing. Bishop fell back with a bleeding gash down his arm. "Bishop!" Marisol shouted, dragging him out of reach. Lazarus moved in next, faster than any human. He struck the creature's head with the steel rod, sending it staggering. But it recovered, grabbing Lazarus by the throat. "You think you're different," it growled. "But you're one of us." "No," Lazarus choked. "I'm what comes after." With a sudden surge of strength, Lazarus slammed his elbow into the creature's face, grabbed a fallen pipe, and drove it through its skull. The creature dropped. Dead, or as close to dead as one of them could be. Everyone stared, breathless. Lazarus turned to Jonas. "There will be more." "We need to go, now," Jonas said, grabbing one of the serum cases. They exited through the emergency corridor. The lights flickered as the building systems continued to destabilize. Far above, the echoes of the Broken One's howls bounced through the metal vents. Theo activated the lift controls at the silo gate. A low rumble signaled the ancient machinery waking up. The doors peeled open, revealing a rusted freight elevator big enough for a truck. They stepped inside, weapons raised, and the platform began to rise. Lazarus looked up at the shaft. "They'll try to follow." "Let them," Bishop muttered, wrapping a cloth around his arm. "I owe them payback." The elevator reached the top, stopping in a wide chamber beneath a collapsed roof. Light poured in through broken panels. Beyond the debris, sky. Freedom. But it came with a cost. Kellis pointed to a side console. "If we activate the silo purge, it will destroy the entire facility, burn everything." Jonas looked back at the lift. "It'll take out the Broken Ones?" "And any answers left behind," Kellis warned. "This place may be the only record of how to replicate Lazarus." Lazarus stepped forward, placing a hand on the control. "We take the cure," he said quietly. "But we leave behind no more monsters." He pressed the button. Deep below, the silo chamber roared to life. Fire, heat, and a wave of white energy erupted downward. The dead zone's last secret began to burn. As the team climbed into the open, they turned for one last look at the ruins. Marisol whispered, "Do you think the world is ready for what we found?" Lazarus didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the horizon. Because something else was already watching. They made camp just outside the blast radius, on a hilltop of cracked asphalt and overgrown weeds, where a rusted billboard warned, "Quarantine Zone, do not enter," in faded red letters. Below, the smoking ruins of Outpost Erebus hissed as heat and ash billowed skyward. The purge had worked. Whatever Broken Ones hadn't been caught in the blaze would be scattered and disoriented, for now. But Jonas knew the peace wouldn't last. They set up watch rotations. No fires. No noise. Just the cold wind whispering through the bones of the city. At dawn, the sun bled red across the horizon, and with it came the silent survivors hated most, the kind that meant something was out there, listening. Theo crouched over the serum cases, carefully repacking the vials inside insulated wraps. "This is everything?" Jonas asked. Theo nodded. 2 full samples. Enough for limited trials. Maybe a synthesized cure if we can reach a lab that still functions. And if we can't? Lena asked. Then Lazarus is the cure, Theo said without looking up. Or the beginning of one. Lazarus sat a few paces away, eyes fixed on the city's northern skyline. He hadn't slept. He didn't seem to need to. His breath misted faintly in the cool air, but he never shivered. He just watched. "Something's coming," he said. Marisol, on first watch, stiffened. "Where?" "Not yet," he murmured. "But soon." They felt the burn. "They're moving again." Bishop stirred from his resting spot, groaning as he checked the bandage on his arm. The gash from the Broken One was still red, angry-looking, but hadn't shown signs of infection. "Still human," he muttered. "Guess I'm lucky." "Maybe more than lucky," Theo said, glancing at him. We should test your blood later. Could be the exposure to Lazarus changed something. Wonderful, Bishop grunted. I get to be a lab rat now. Jonas rose and scanned the road ahead. We move by nightfall. Head east. If the old military relay station at Ridgepoint still stands, it's the only way to broadcast what we found. And what happens when others hear? Lena asked. Do we tell them we found a man who came back from the dead? Jonas didn't answer immediately. No, he said. We tell them there's hope. They'll come for that. Not for legends. By mid-morning, the group was packed and moving, cutting through abandoned side roads where trees grew through pavement and cars lay frozen mid-escape. Street signs were faded. Stores boarded shut. Dead bodies long decayed into skeletons. They didn't speak much. The further they traveled, the heavier the air became. Jonas felt it in his bones. That creeping feeling of being watched. Hunted. But no one said it aloud. Not until they saw the smoke. Theo spotted it first, a thin black column rising from the tree line, maybe 3 miles out. Campfire? Marisol asked. No, Jonas said grimly. Controlled burn. Someone signaling. Us? Lena asked. Maybe, Jonas replied. Or someone else. They approached carefully, leaving the truck behind and continuing on foot. The trees thickened, and then opened into a clearing. In the center, a makeshift encampment ringed with wire. Scavenged gear. And people, at least a dozen of them, armed, alert. One stepped forward, raising a hand. He looked lean, like a soldier out of uniform, with scars down one cheek and sharp eyes. Didn't expect anyone to come from the zone, he said. Thought it was lost. Was, Jonas said. Not anymore. The man studied them, eyes lingering on Lazarus. And who's that? Lazarus stepped forward. A survivor. The man frowned. Name's Ash. I run this camp. You say something's changed down there? Theo held up a serum vial. We found what might be a cure. Ash's eyes widened, then narrowed. Where's the rest of your crew? This is it, Jonas replied. A pause. The camp around them buzzed with tension. People were whispering. Ash nodded slowly. Come in. Eat. Rest. But be ready. If you brought hope, you also brought attention. Inside the camp, things were different. There were families, children. They hadn't seen kids since Safe Haven fell. It made the risk feel real again. Later, while the others rested, Ash pulled Jonas aside. You're not the first to claim they found a cure, he said. But this feels different. What's the catch? Jonas looked at the dark horizon. We've got one man who survived the virus. We've got 2 samples of something that might fight it. And we've got enemies we don't understand coming for both. Ash nodded. Then I suggest you stay one night. After that, you run like hell. Behind them, Lazarus stood at the camp perimeter, staring north. The broken ones are coming, he said quietly. But not just them. Jonas turned. What do you mean? Lazarus's eyes darkened. Something else moved when Erebus burned. Something older. Something watching. We woke more than just memories down there. A chill ran through the camp. The wind shifted. And in the distance, deep in the woods, came a sound none of them expected. A long, low horn. One blast. Then silence. And every survivor knew, they had just been marked. The horn blast faded, but the sound hung in the air like a curse. It wasn't natural. It didn't echo like wind or a dying engine. It was deliberate, ancient, even. A signal, meant to stir something deeper than fear. The camp fell into silence. Survivors gathered, weapons in hand, eyes wide with the kind of terror that said they'd heard that sound before, but never lived close enough to feel its vibration in their bones. Lazarus stood still, his head tilted slightly, as if he could hear more than the others. "It's not them," he said. "Not the broken ones. This is something else." Ash stepped forward, hand on his pistol. "Then what did we just hear?" "A call," Lazarus replied. "To things buried even deeper than I was. When Erebus fell, its destruction triggered old protocols, signals meant to activate other installations. That horn is a reply." Marisol clutched her jacket tighter around her. "So what, we tripped a silent alarm?" "Worse," Lazarus said. "We woke something that was meant to sleep forever." Ash didn't wait. He barked orders to his people, moving with the precision of someone used to emergency. "Perimeter sweep. Double watch rotations. Get the kids underground." Theo pulled Jonas aside. "If Lazarus is right, we may have set off a chain reaction. There could be more sites like Erebus. Facilities that failed, or were never fully deactivated. And if the horn came from one of them?" Jonas asked. "Then someone, or something, is still running the show." Lena approached from the edge of the group. "Bishop's fever's getting worse. His wound, it's changing." Jonas followed her into one of the tents. Bishop lay on a cot, drenched in sweat, his breathing shallow. The gash on his arm had spread into a dark, web-like bruise. But it wasn't infection, not the kind they knew. "It's not necrotic," Kellis whispered. "It's cellular restructuring. His blood is reacting, like it's learning." "You're saying he's mutating?" Lena asked, eyes wide. "Not exactly," Kellis said. "But something in his biology is adapting. And he's not the only one. Look at Lazarus." They all glanced outside. Lazarus stood still, his skin faintly luminescent in the moonlight. His eyes scanned the darkness, not with fear, but with familiarity. Theo stepped back. What if this is what Erebus was working toward all along? Not just curing the infection, but creating something new. "No," Jonas said. "We're not repeating that cycle. We're not building more monsters." "We may not have a choice," Kellis warned. "The world outside is dying faster than we can rebuild it. If the only way to survive is to evolve." Lazarus entered the tent, cutting him off. "I won't become what they feared. But something is coming tonight, and we must decide if we face it, or run." Ash appeared behind him, face grim. "We've got movement in the trees. At least 20 forms. No lights. No sound. They're waiting." "Scouts," Lazarus said. "They hunt by sound, by heat, by intent." Jonas turned to the group. "We can't fight them all. We don't even know what they are." Ash nodded. "There's a tunnel system beneath the camp. Old storm drains. Not safe, but it's cover. We take Bishop, the serum, and Lazarus," Jonas said. "Everyone else decides, stay and fight, or follow." Ash didn't hesitate. "We'll cover your escape. But if you make it out, tell the world what happened here." Minutes later, they descended into the tunnels, damp, cramped, and pitch black. Marisol carried one serum case, Jonas the other. Theo and Lena supported Bishop, who was barely conscious now, whispering things they couldn't understand. "They're calling me," he mumbled. "From the dark." "Keep him awake," Jonas said. "He goes under, we lose him." Behind them, the sound of gunfire erupted. Then screams. Then silence. They kept moving. One turn, then another. Lazarus led with certainty, as if the tunnel spoke to him. The further they went, the colder it got. Frost coated some of the pipes. Strange glyphs marked the walls, etched long ago. Theo touched one. These symbols, they're from Erebus. Older versions. It means these tunnels weren't just drains, Lazarus said. They were part of a forgotten network. Where does it lead? Marisol asked. To the next phase, Lazarus replied. Whatever comes after survival. Suddenly, a shriek echoed through the tunnels, not human. Not undead. Something else had followed them. Jonas raised his rifle. Run. Now. They sprinted through the narrow passage, chased by echoes and shadows. Up ahead, a shaft of light. An exit. They burst into the open, an overgrown valley lit by moonlight, ringed by collapsed radio towers and ruined machinery. Lena looked back. We lost it. No, Lazarus said, stepping forward. It let us go. Jonas stared at him. Why? Because it wants us to find what comes next. Far in the distance, a new horn blew. Deeper. Closer. And beneath it, a voice whispered, not aloud, but inside them all. Come see what you've awakened. The next morning brought no warmth. The valley was quiet, the kind of quiet that pressed against the skull and made every breath feel like trespassing. A thin mist crawled across the ground, curling around their boots as the group stood at the edge of what Lazarus called Echo Facility, a hidden complex buried beneath the skeleton of an old relay station. It didn't show on any map. No warning signs. No radiation markers. Just silence and scars in the earth. A place designed to vanish. Jonas stared at the rust-covered hatch embedded in the hillside. And you're sure this is where the signal came from? Lazarus nodded. The horn wasn't just a warning. It was an invitation, from here. Marisol adjusted the straps on the serum case. Why would anything down there want us to come closer? Because it's not just protecting something, Lazarus said. It's testing us. Theo tapped on his pad, syncing it to the faint signal coming from below. There's still power down there. Low grade, but steady. And encrypted. That means someone, or something, is still active, Kellis muttered. Could be remnants of the original project. Or worse, a fail-safe. Only one way to find out, Jonas said. They opened the hatch. A gust of cold air met them, stale and metallic. Below, a rusted ladder descended into darkness. One by one, they climbed down, flashlights sweeping across the walls. Pipes. Old security cables. Symbols similar to those in the tunnels. Lazarus touched one with reverence. These weren't warnings. They were instructions. A language for something not fully human. What did Echo do? Lena asked. Kellis's voice was low. It was Erebus's shadow. What couldn't be tested there, was buried here. Memory manipulation, behavioral control, turning the infected into tools, not just subjects. They reached the bottom. A wide corridor stretched before them, the floor littered with dried leaves and fragments of shattered glass. The hum of power pulsed beneath the surface. At the far end, a door marked control blinked red. Jonas reached for the panel, but it lit up before he touched it. Access granted, designation, Lazarus. The door slid open. Inside was a vast chamber, screens lining the walls, all black except for one. A terminal at the center glowed with a single line of text. We've been waiting. Theo moved forward, plugging in his pad. It's an AI. A legacy system. Advanced, maybe even partially organic. Probably trained on the minds of the original subjects. Suddenly, a voice crackled through overhead speakers, female, calm, emotionless. Welcome home, Subject 9. Everyone turned to Lazarus, who stood frozen. You knew? Jonas asked. I suspected, Lazarus said. I wasn't just a cure. I was a control. The AI continued. Project Echo was created to house the minds of the first experiments. Your body survived, but your consciousness was copied, stored here for behavioral refinement. That means, you're not whole, Marisol whispered. No, Lazarus said. I'm a mirror. Half a man built from the fragments they left behind. The screen changed, displaying schematics, biological data, neural maps. Then, a second figure appeared. Subject 9B. Lazarus stepped closer. Another version. Kellis leaned in. They cloned the neural structure. Ran parallel experiments. One stayed in the field, the other remained here, growing, watching. Theo paled. That's who called us. The screen flickered. A new line appeared. Integration required. What does that mean? Lena asked. The AI responded. Both versions must merge. Full cognitive reintegration. Only then will the cure stabilize. Without it, mutation is inevitable. They looked at Bishop, whose skin now shimmered faintly beneath the bandages. His breathing had stabilized, but his eyes held something different. He was changing. Then it's not just Lazarus, Kellis said. Anyone exposed to the serum risks mutation unless the neural key is complete. Lazarus stood silent, absorbing it all. This is why I was brought back, he murmured. Not to save the world. To finish becoming who I was meant to be. Jonas approached him. What happens if you go through with it? Lazarus's eyes met his. I become something else. Not man. Not monster. Something new. And once I do, I may not come back. Before anyone could argue, another screen lit up, security feed. Figures in the tunnels. Broken ones. Dozens. And leading them was something else, taller, cloaked in shadow, its face obscured by a breathing mask. It moved with purpose, flanked by two hulking creatures. Not wild. Commanded. Theo's voice shook. They've been following us since Erebus. The AI spoke again. They are Echo's original sentinels. Early prototypes. Failed in mind, perfected in body. They seek the missing half. They want Lazarus, Marisol said. No, Lazarus replied. They want what I haven't become yet. Jonas raised his rifle. Then we make our stand here. Lazarus stepped toward the integration pod. No. You hold them off long enough for me to finish. After that, everything changes. He climbed inside. The pod sealed. And outside the chamber, the doors trembled. The hunt was over. The war for what came next had begun. The pod hissed shut around Lazarus. Blue light ignited from within, flooding his silhouette in a surreal glow. Inside, biometric scans began, needles descending, synaptic circuits aligning. Across the chamber, the screens flickered, one by one, displaying waveforms, neural signatures, and heart rate indicators converging. Integration initiated, the AI announced. Merging memory core with subject 9. Estimated completion, 7 minutes. Jonas turned from the pod, rifle raised. That's 7 minutes too long. From the corridor came the first crash. The reinforced door bent inward under massive force. A moment later, it was torn free, sent flying into the chamber like a sheet of paper. The broken ones poured in. Dozens of them, twisted and writhing, eyes glowing with something between rage and recognition. And behind them came the leader, a tall figure in tattered tactical gear, helmet fused to his skin, breathing mask hissing with every exhale. Theo's breath caught. That's subject 9B. The version that stayed behind. He's the other half, Kellis whispered. The one Lazarus has to overwrite. No, Marisol corrected. The one who wants to overwrite Lazarus first. Defensive protocols enabled, the AI blared. Turrets dropped from the ceiling and opened fire, precision burst striking the nearest broken ones. But for each one that fell, two took its place. Jonas and Bishop moved to flank the front line, unloading their weapons with ruthless efficiency. Spent shells clattered across the floor, echoed by the inhuman shrieks of the dead that weren't quite dead enough. Marisol grabbed the second serum case and ran it to cover. If they destroy this, it's over. Lena pulled Bishop into cover, checking his pulse. His skin now glowed faintly beneath his veins. But his aim was true. His shots were clean. The serum was working, but changing him faster. "You're still with us?" she asked. "For now," he growled, "but I'm hearing things, voices not mine." "You hang on," Lena snapped. "Lazarus needs time." The leader stepped into the room. The broken ones parted around him like shadows pulled by gravity. He didn't speak, but every screen in the chamber suddenly shifted, displaying his face, his stats, his mission protocols. Terminate Subject 9. Assume control of all legacy functions. AI. Theo shouted. Deny override. The voice replied. Authority contested. Integration progress, 62%. Jonas moved in, firing point-blank at the leader. The rounds hit, but barely slowed him. With fluid, unnatural motion, the leader grabbed Jonas by the throat and hurled him across the room. "Jonas!" Marisol screamed, rushing toward him. The leader advanced toward the pod. Inside, Lazarus remained still, eyes closed, lips moving in silent speech. Integration, 71%, the AI said. Warning, neural override attempt detected. Theo's hands danced across the control terminal. He's trying to hijack the merge. If he gets in before Lazarus completes the sync, he becomes the dominant mind. Kellis finished. We lose everything. The leader reached the pod. The door began to glow, melting, warping. Lena turned to Bishop. Can you stop him? Bishop's eyes were nearly white now, glowing like Lazarus's. I can slow him down. But if I change, you shoot me. Without waiting, Bishop ran forward, slamming into the leader from the side. They tumbled in a blur of claws, fists, and sparks. The leader struck Bishop across the face, but Bishop didn't fall. He roared and tackled him again. Integration, 89%, the AI announced. Theo shouted, Come on, Lazarus. Wake up. Suddenly, the pod exploded with light. The leader froze mid-punch. A wave of invisible force pulsed from the chamber, blasting every broken one backward. The leader staggered to one knee, howling. The pod opened. Lazarus stepped out. But he was no longer just Lazarus. His eyes glowed gold. His body shimmered with energy, not infected, not augmented, but whole. He looked at the leader. You were the weapon, he said. I am the memory. I am the future. The leader lunged. Lazarus didn't move. He willed the air around him, and it obeyed. With a single motion, he reached forward. The leader's body froze, convulsed, then collapsed into ash. Every broken one stopped moving. Then, one by one, they dropped. Lazarus turned to the others. It's done. Jonas groaned from where he lay, grinning through blood. Took you long enough. Lena helped Bishop to his feet. His glow had faded, his eyes returning to normal. You okay? She asked. I think I was, almost gone. But something pulled me back. Integration complete, the AI said. Echo facility shutting down. Theo approached Lazarus cautiously. Are you still, you? I'm more than I was, he answered. But I remember everything. I remember who I am. And why we must go on. Kellis stepped forward with the serum case. Then we have what we need to rebuild. No, Lazarus said. We don't rebuild the past. We build something better. Above them, the sky was starting to change. Not darker. Brighter. The signal from Echo broadcasted once more, this time with coordinates, data, and a single phrase. Hope has survived. End of Part 8, 795 words.